Hello, hey, welcome everyone. Welcome to Fermyon Cloud Office Hours. My name is Sohan Maheshwar. I'm a dev advocate with Fermyon. This is the first time we're actually doing this on YouTube. So yeah, yay us, congratulations, I guess. I have with me Kenzie. Kenzie, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here. My name is Kenzie. I am a product manager here at Fermyon, working primarily on Fermyon Cloud. And yeah, really excited to chat with you guys and show you what we've been up to for the past few months.
Yeah, well, so how this works essentially is it's office hours. So you get to ask us any questions you might have about WebAssembly, about Spin, about Fermyon Cloud. In the meanwhile, we have a bunch of things that we actually want to share with you. Kenzie, it's been a busy month for us, I think, in terms of things that we've released.
Yes, it definitely has. We've been working hard and we're so excited to finally be able to share all of these new features with y'all and hear your feedback, what's working well, what you'd like to see. So, yeah, looking forward to walking through them and hearing your thoughts.
Yeah. And this is the first time that we're doing office hours. So how it works is you can put your questions in the chat. Feel free to drop any questions from the chat. Let us know where you're viewing from as well. We always get like I hope we get like a fairly international audience. So would be good to hear where you're joining us from. Kenzie, first question before we go into like features and Fermyon specific things. We are working in the WebAssembly or the WASM space, right? So maybe we can do a quick context set about what WebAssembly is, why it's important, and why we're so excited to actually work on this. So, what is
Yeah,
WebAssembly?
happy to go over it. So, at the simplest definition, WebAssembly is a standardized bytecode format. So, when you're compiling a C program, right, you're compiling to a specific architecture, a specific operating system. When you're using WebAssembly, you're actually compiling to a WASM format. And why this is interesting is you can run a bunch of different applications written in different languages meant for different environments, all with the exact same runtime. So oftentimes when we talk about WebAssembly with folks, if they are familiar, if they've heard the term before, we hear, oh, that was written for the browser, right? Um, and you're correct in that it originated as a browser technology because of that ability to be agnostic of the environment you're running on. The same app would play nice with a bunch of different browsers. But here at Fermyon, we looked at that and we noticed it was solving a lot of pain points we had seen working with customers on server side in cloud. Being able to isolate your applications, run it agnostic of the underlying VM architecture, and then also some really neat benefits like being able to start your application in milliseconds, right? Trying to whittle down that container start time by peeling layers out of your image is painful. And so to be able to write something and have it just pop up instantly when the request is made or nearly instantly, we're pretty excited about it. And that's why we're working on Fermyon Cloud and working with WebAssembly.
Nice. So you mentioned startup times. I mean, of like an app, right? And I know people who are building apps that are distributed face things like cold start times when they use, the serverless technology that's available to them right now. So how does that actually reduce with something like WebAssembly, right? And we have benchmarked it, and we've actually seen like a huge reduction in that cold start time, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, oftentimes with containers, right, we see users having to run warm containers all the time in order to get that nearly instant response that they need. So, if you, for example, have written a custom shell, right, and your end users are logging in, you'd expect it to behave like a command terminal, right? You want that up and running nearly instantly. So, with WebAssembly, rather than having to run a hot container all the time, we can do is just make a simple HTTP request, respond, we spin up the application in milliseconds, right? And so once that request is done, goes back down, and all of a sudden you have free space to use for other things rather than just holding for 10% use of the day,
Mhm.
right? Especially if it's hard to predict your traffic.
Yep. I recently was at this conference called We Are Developers in Berlin. Met with so many full stack devs who had use cases such as this, right, where they have like very bursty workloads where they get these events coming in, and I was telling them, yeah, using WebAssembly on your server side might actually solve a lot of your problems. So, speaking of WebAssembly and server side, Spin. Where does that really fit into this whole picture, Spin and Fermyon Cloud? Let's talk a bit about that.
Yeah, happy to. So Spin is our open source framework, and there are like a lot of different WebAssembly runtimes out there. I remember when I was first becoming familiar with the space, it's like, wow, there's a lot out here to ingest. And what we do with Spin is we're abstracting it away a little bit for you and allowing you as the developer to focus on application composition. So Spin allows you to take a trigger of your choice and then apply it to a set of components. And those components, you can give different characteristics. Maybe you want one component to have access to a certain endpoint. Another component should have access to a database or perhaps a key value store. So with Spin, you're basically composing what that application looks like, the behaviors it should have, and how it should be triggered, essentially. And Spin runs anywhere, right? It runs locally on your machine. We use Spin and Fermyon Cloud, and that's one of the value propositions we're really excited about, is that it's easy to take something locally, tinkering around, and then when you want to scale out, push it to Fermyon Cloud, where we're running Spin, virtual machines, Nomad, or Orchestrator. We're all doing that on your behalf. It's a serverless platform. So all you really have to worry about is taking that app, deploying it, and watching it run at scale. And we're managing all of that infrastructure for you.
Yeah, and I think because it is this portable bytecode format, I've heard this rumor that it could also potentially run on a Raspberry Pi.
Yes,
So
I think
it can actually, yeah.
Justin at our company has tinkered around with that, and if you find him on Discord, I'm sure he'd be more than happy to chat with anyone who's interested in that use case. He's a great resource.
Yeah. Speaking of which, if you haven't already, folks, please join our Discord. We have a fairly active Discord with more than 1,000 odd people. Yeah, you can see the link, fermyon.com/blog/fermyon Discord. There are some details there with, of course, the link to our Discord. So if you haven't already joined, there's your link. I can also post in the chat, perhaps. All right. So, yeah, sorry, Quincy, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it's just a great place to chat with us. One of the cool things about Fermyon is we have employees in a bunch of different time zones. So, odds are if you have a question, someone's going to be on Discord ready to chat. And we love hearing from y'all. So definitely reach out.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we have a bunch of Spin devs there, but we also have folks in the community who are active, like helping other people out, getting started with things like WebAssembly and Spin and Fermyon Cloud. So do hop on by. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, just to recap, folks, this is Fermyon Cloud Office Hours. This is where you get to ask us questions about WebAssembly, about Spin, about Fermyon Cloud. Feel free to put it in the chat, and or if you have any other questions after this chat, get in touch with us on Discord. We will be doing a bunch of demos about the things that we have launched in the last month or so, and we actually had a couple of really exciting launches. So I'm excited to see those demos. Before that, Kenzie, Fermyon Cloud, quick elevator pitch before we dive into some of the feature launches.
Cool. Quick elevator pitch. If you are a developer looking to write serverless event-driven code and you've had problems in the past with, security boundaries, if you're looking to improve your cold start time, Fermyon Cloud is the place for you. Like, yes, we run WebAssembly applications and you'll be using Spin and all of that, but we want to make it really easy for developers to tinker around with this new technology and really understand how it could improve their existing workloads and solve some of the problems that they've been working through. So Fermyon Cloud is we're going to take Spin, we're going to run it for you. We're running virtual machines, we're running all the networking. So you really get that time back to focus on your application development and thinking less about infrastructure or how exactly you're going to take this application from one location to the next. We're trying to make it as easy as possible for you.
Nice. My version, I'm going to go with the like one-liner type thing, but I'm just going to put it out there and say the best place to run your WebAssembly apps. I mean, you can quote me on that, but I'm biased, of course. But, yeah.
Yes, that's a very good condensed version. Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. So, folks, in the past month or so, we have actually been pretty hard at work launching some very cool new features. Again, I am biased, but these features are pretty cool. And we are going to talk about them right now. The first one is custom domains, right? So far in the cloud, you could have like a subdomain .fermyon .app. and we actually launched the ability to have a custom domain. And this, I think, is a big step, because now, well, you can have your custom domain linked to your WebAssembly app. And Kenzie, why don't you tell us more about this?
Yeah, I mean, did a great intro. We always will provide you with that generic domain name that combines your application, its name, along with a random string. So you have static ingress by default anytime you deploy to Fermyon Cloud. But we got feedback from developers who were interested in hosting blogs and other sorts of websites where having your own domains pretty much is very critical, right? In order to seriously consider a platform. It improves your SEO. It helps build brand integrity. Custom Fermyon subdomains are great. In fact, we'll even show an example using it in another scenario. But we wanted to unlock that door for developers who were interested in hosting blogs and other sort of front-end websites and would benefit from having a custom domain applied to their application.
Yeah. And in case you want to read the launch blog, which I think, Kenzie, you might have written, this is a blog. I mean, it's fermyon.com/blog/announcing custom domains. There is a step-by-step, but we will be doing a demo now, so you can follow along with us. Again, just to reiterate, this is Cloud Office Hours, so if you want to ask us questions about Fermyon, about Spin, about WebAssembly, about what my favorite music genre is, feel free to do that in the chat. We love to hear from you, and also tell us where you're actually watching the stream from. Again, we just love to hear from you. So let's do a deep dive into custom domains, Kenzie. I think there's like a lot to unpack there. I think we've been in touch with people who are using Fermyon Cloud for their apps, right? And we see things like you said, like blogs and static site generators and all of that. So let's talk custom domains. How does something like this actually work?
Sure. Let's start off with a workload to kind of frame the feature. So we have...
Kenzie, sorry, quickly, can you just magnify your screen a little bit, perhaps?
Oh, yeah. I might actually do the spin.toml. How does that look?
Yeah, looks good. Go ahead.
Fantastic. Okay. So here we have a fairly simple Spin application. It's a static blog. And if you're familiar with some of the Fermyon Cloud demos that we've used in the past, we have Finicky Whiskers, and I'm sure we'll get to this later. But the main character in our Finicky Whiskers game is a cat named Slots. And we decided he was going to have a diary that we're going to host as a static blog. And to get started, we decided to use 11t as a template, and it was very easy to actually package it as a Spin application, which we've done here. And what we're going to do is now deploy where we have it running on Fermyon Cloud. And I'll walk you through the steps I took to take the assigned domain name and apply a custom domain that I had purchased previously. And so I'm going to double click on that a little bit. Fermyon Cloud is not a domain registrar. So in order to use the custom domain feature, you have to come in with a domain you already have. So Namecheap is a great example of somewhere you could go and purchase a domain if you didn't have one already that you're interested in bringing to Fermyon Cloud.
And just to clarify, Kenzie, so if I already own a domain, I could also use that to point to my WebAssembly app or my Spin app, correct?
Absolutely. There are a very small number of steps we need to take, but yes, you will absolutely be able to bring it to Fermyon Cloud and assign it to your Spin application. Okay. So this is a little bit of a baked cake example, but walk through all the steps. If we had deployed our app as is, right, we would see something like a combination of the app name and a random string. So previously this was Finicky Whiskers, something else, .fermyon.app. In order to apply my custom domain, I'm going to click on this Manage Domains button. And we have a couple options. Below is our Fermyon subdomain. We're going to keep it, so you'll have both assigned to your application. So if I wanted to edit this and make it something different, you can certainly do so, just to make it a bit more discoverable in the event that you would want to remove your custom domain or make any changes. if we're adding the custom domain for the first time, and maybe I'll use this app as an example because it'll be a bit clearer, we would go ahead and click the Add Custom Domain button. And this is where you are going to supply your domain. Right now, we support a maximum of 1 custom domain per spin application, and it's important to put the entire domain in there. So we've provided you a few examples, but of course, go ahead and check with your domain registrar exactly, what you're going to be moving over. So in this example, we have finicky whiskers diaries. And you noticed I forgot the .com previously. We're not actually going to let you proceed. We do a little bit of validation to make sure you're set up for success for the remainder of the workflow. So clicking save will essentially tie that custom domain to your application, but it's not set up quite yet. What you're going to have to do next is add Fermyon Cloud's name server records to your domain registrar. So in order to do that, we're going to click DNS info. And these are the form name server records that you're going to go ahead and go over. So in my example, I purchased my domain through Namecheap. I'm going to copy all 4, and then I'm going to go and update the name server records over there and have them point to now Fermyon Cloud's name servers. And what that's doing is essentially handing DNS management over to Fermyon Cloud. And at that point, whenever someone does a lookup on that domain, it's going to be handled and managed by our name servers. This process can take a little bit. It really depends on your domain registrar. So it could take up to 72 hours to actually fully propagate. So it's important to think through when you might want to be making this transition. And once you've done that, you'll click done. And the spinning wheel is indicating the status of the domain delegation. So spinning means we're in the verifying state. And eventually when we get into a happy state, like this application I've done previously, you will see we have the green check mark, meaning all is well, and that we should be able to pop over to finickyWhiskersDiary.com.
So really, when I'm doing this, I have to wait for that green check mark to know that it's propagated and it's pointing to my DNS is pointing to that app, correct?
Exactly. Yep. And it's definitely important to follow through on the steps with your domain registrar. Sometimes just adding the name server records isn't sufficient. You'll actually have to click, okay, these are the ones I would like to use, or point over to these. So definitely take a look at the instructions. And of course, if you run into any sharp edges with that process, we're here to help and walk through that with you. But yeah, so that's essentially it. And now we have our custom domain, and we also have the Fermyon subdomain that we can use with this application. But yeah, we're just really excited about this. And every time someone hits finickyWhiskersDiary.com, right, that's us spinning up a spin application for the first time. Like, that's how quick this process is happening behind the scenes, which is pretty wild to think about.
Nice. And this feature is completely free, correct?
Yes, and it does not matter which subscription type you're on. So if you're a developer or you're in their growth plan or our starter plan, you will be able to use custom domains.
Nice. Yeah, folks. As you saw in the demo, that was super simple to use. So yeah, just check out our blog for more details. If you have any questions or you're stuck, you could always head on over to our Discord or join us in Office Hours. This is why Office Hours exists, basically, for you all to ask us questions, just in case you all want to know more. So it was a very busy month for us because custom domains wasn't the only thing we launched. We also announced the launch of a database, and it is a no-ops SQL database, right? So first things first, Kenzie, why is it called a no-ops SQL database?
No-ops is the condensed version of no operations. And what we really mean by that is you do not have to worry about database provisioning. You do not have to worry about connection strings or credentials in order to access this. we're all doing it through Spin in a very secure way and provisioning and managing that database for you. So really all you have to do is in your application manifest express that you want a certain component to chat with NoOps SQL database. And from there, we really take the initiative to connect that component to the provision the database, connect it all together. So we're managing a lot of that on your behalf and making it really easy to store relational data associated with that Spin application.
Nice. And again, just to clarify, it's definitely not Noop's SQL database, correct? It is NoOps. Okay.
It's not Noops. Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. Yeah. So, I mean, like we did with the custom domains, we could probably do like a deep dive to see how it works, how you as a dev can actually, get started with a NoOps SQL database and what the dev experience looks like. So, Kenzie, take it away.
Absolutely. And one important distinction is that it's currently in a private beta form. So we would love to, provide access and then have you try it out. But in order to do so, we just ask that you fill out this form and we'll go through a process and you should get an email from us. So before you go try this out at home, definitely take the step to fill out the request form, and we can definitely share this link as well. But diving into the specifics of the feature, back to GitHub, we have a to-do application, fairly simple. We have a front-end component that's rendered with our static file server, and then we have an API component that's going through and managing our to-do actions. So it is just a very simple list where you can create new line items of things you want to do. You can mark them as complete, and then you can delete them. So if you take a look into our source code here, narrowing in on the specific API component, you can see we can get a list of to-dos, we can create them, we can update, and we can delete them. And the to-do item itself is the data that we're going to be plugging into our NoOps SQL database. We're collecting information. We have a primary key, which is just the ID. We have a description. We have a star. So if something's important, bump it to the top, and then it's complete. So that's the data we're going to be storing in our NoOps SQL database. And you can go through, and if you love Rust, take a look at all the different functions. But the really cool part is essentially all you have to do is interact with the Spin SDK in order to store and retrieve that data. We're not making any assumptions about the database and its status itself. All we really have to do is in the application manifest. And if you haven't worked with Spin before, this is really the most important part to configure in terms of having to worry about configuration. You add a line here that says SQLite databases equal default, and it's essentially you giving access for this specific component to your NoOps SQL database. Mm-hmm. This component here doesn't have the line. Therefore, if we wanted to within the front end component try and pull data, that wouldn't be allowed. And so that's kind of what we mean by NoOps is you don't really have to worry about, aside from adding that one simple line, that's about it in terms of like creating a separation barrier between the different components you have within that Spin app.
Got it. Also, quickly, just to recap what we're doing, this is office hours, which means you get to ask us questions if you have any. We're showing a demo of a feature that we just launched about a week ago, I think, which is a NoOps SQL database. So you have access to a SQL database in the Fermyon Cloud, and it's called a NoOps database because, well, you don't have to do the operations related to actually set this database up. It's straight out of the box. You can use it, and it's super simple to use, which is what Kenzie is showing. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat, or also just wave to us and tell us where you're viewing the stream from. We love to hear from you, and we love to interact with our audience as well. Kenzie, quick question about this. So before, you could use a database while developing locally using Spin, and now you can do so in the cloud. Is there a difference in that experience? How would that change when I'm pushing something in the cloud?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So We are using the same SDK, right? You don't really have to change much. When you're working locally, there is one distinction that's worth calling out, is that in order to invoke an application locally, you run spin up whack SQLite and you pass in a command. So if you wanted to check if a database or check if a table exists, you could pass that in. Or if there was something you needed to do upon invoking the app, that's the right flag to use. When you're deploying to cloud with spin cloud deploy, we don't support the whack SQLite command. We have a execute command that you can run separately after the application is created. So that is really the one distinction you do have to think about, is separating out and making sure that there isn't anything you would need to pass in during application deployment time, and that could be handled rather as a separate execution flag later on while the application is running. But in terms of having to yank things out of like the SDK or make any changes to the application manifest, there shouldn't be anything you have to work around there.
Okay. Yep. I've linked the blog post in our chat, but also on the screen right now. If you want to apply for the private beta to get access to this feature, do check out the blog post. Again, this feature is in private beta. We also have a Discord channel, and I'm going to post the link to that as well, where you can actually join. We have a channel to discuss this feature. If you have any feedback, any suggestions, any bugs that you might have encountered, that's the point of a private beta. So we'd love to hear from you what you think about this particular feature. Kenzie, let's actually just take a look at the demo, perhaps.
Yeah, I'm feeling brave, so I'm going to deploy this right
Deploying
now.
on a live stream, that is brave indeed. Yeah,
exactly, and acknowledging it as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so if folks aren't familiar, the command to actually go ahead and deploy an application, I basically just have.
Sorry, Kenzie, are you opened your VS Code? You might have to bring that onto the live stream.
Thank you. Yes, that's probably better than just listening to the narration. Hang
No
tight.
worries.
We'll move over to VS Code.
Again, folks, just as a reminder, this is Office Hours. We do this once a month. And if you like this format, we could probably do it fortnightly as well. It is where you can ask us questions about anything WebAssembly, Spin, Fermyon, whatever, and we'll try and answer as many as possible. Today, we are actually showing you a demo of some of the cool features that we have launched in the last couple of weeks. One of which is a no-ops SQL database. So we're showing a demo of how this SQL database works when you're building with Spin in the Fermyon Cloud. Kenzie, take it away.
All right. So we have our application and we're ready to go ahead and push this to cloud. The really nice thing here is I get to use the same spin cloud deploy command that I would use on a quick start or any other application. We don't have to pass anything in specifically. And again, that's because we've gone ahead and expressed in our application manifest that we're going to need a no-ops SQL database in this line. And that's about it. So let's go ahead and deploy. And behind the scenes, we are making sure that we're making sure a database is up and available and ready to connect to your Spin application. At this point, it's also good to call out that there's a one-to-one relationship between Spin applications and no-ops SQL database. So just something to think about when you're considering the architecture of your app. And let's move over back to our Fermyon Cloud dashboard. And if folks haven't checked out Fermyon Cloud dashboard, it's really easy to get started. All you need is a GitHub handle. And from there, you can get set up. Our quick start app is really easy if you don't have something immediately in mind that you want to go ahead and deploy. Or if you're looking for ideas, ping in our Discord and we're happy to chat.
Kenzie, your screen might have disappeared again. Your VS Code, at least. Yeah.
Do you see? You should see GitHub at this point.
Yeah, I see GitHub. Yeah.
Fantastic. We'll move back over, and we're going to refresh Fermyon Cloud, and we should see our to-do application.
Nice.
And although I don't have a custom domain handy, I'm going to take out our random string here and make it a little bit simpler to access our to-do.
Yeah,
And
this is another feature that we actually launched maybe a few months ago, perhaps, where instead of just a random string.fermyon app, you could actually customize the subdomain. So you could have something like todo.fermyon.app. So yeah.
yes, go ahead and check it out. It's fun. Maybe reserve your GitHub handle. That's something I should do, is have mine up. All right, let's give this a shot. Welcome to our to-do list. It's currently short. I'll give us a to-do item. Say feeds finicky whiskers, our hungry cat. We'll probably get around to that a little bit later. And there we go. I can star it or mark it as complete, and then I can also go ahead and delete it. Should be accessible if anyone on the stream wants to go ahead and add anything to the to-do list. You can hit it up. And actually, one of the cool things that we have built into Fermyon Cloud dashboard is the ability to see the number of requests going to your Spin application, so you can get a sense of the traffic that you're serving over a certain period of time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can actually
But
see.
that
I think folks are trying the feature out. At least I did.
Nice.
I added like a to-do list to add like a feature in Finicky Whiskers or in Slat's diary at least, because you need to fill that diary in.
That's great. Do you have a custom domain so we can check in on the to-do list?
Yeah. We actually have a bunch of questions from folks. So we have a question from Feeler who says, does Fermyon supports WebSockets and/or cron jobs / scheduled triggers?
Ooh, I'm glad you asked. Fermyon Cloud does not have WebSocket support yet, although that is something we're looking into investing in. First, that support needs to come through Spin, but later on be adopted by Fermyon Cloud. And we do not have cron jobs at this time, but I have kind of worked around it by using external services to call our HTTP trigger on a given interval. So for example, you'll see in my Fermyon Cloud account, I have that Stargazer app. And what I'm doing there is I'm using an external cron job to go ahead and call the endpoint every day. And actually, this is the better version. Pull our Stargazer account for Spin and populate this graph. So there are certainly ways that you can make sure that your Spin app is getting called on a regular interval.
Yeah. So to give you a little more detailed answer, I think from a bit of background. So I think a lot of the server-side WebAssembly stuff is based on WASI, which is the interpreter which enables this, right? And WASI is maintained by the Bytecode Alliance, and they have like a proposal on their GitHub. And one of their proposals is in phase 2, which is actually for sockets. And I'm going to paste that link in the chat here. And as you can see that one of the proposals in phase 2 is for something, I think, to do with WebSockets, right? As Fly mentioned, I think there are plugins that can schedule tasks. Okay, that's probably different to do the cron jobs and triggers. But yeah, in phase 2, there should be that. So if that's something that interests you, you can take a look at that proposal, which I can also link to you actually directly. I know why I didn't do that to begin with. But yeah, this proposal describes WebSockets using WASI, right? So if this is something that interests you, you can check out the GitHub, maybe contribute to it and see how it works. To answer your second question, Feeler, which is about cron job / schedule triggers, as Fly mentioned that there are plugins that can schedule tasks, but like Kenzie said, right? As of now, I don't think there is like built-in Spin support for that, but I know maybe add that to the list. Let's see.
Yeah. I think there's another question about Go support for NoOps SQL database, and
yes,
just wanted
question from Rajat. Yeah, go ahead, Kenzie.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, yeah, I just wanted to direct people to these two resources we have. The first is in our Spin documentation. So for our API guides, there's a tab for the languages that are supported and specific examples on how to get started with Spin in general. and then drilling down into Fermyon Cloud. So to answer your question, we currently don't have support for Go quite yet for our NoOps SQL DB in Spin, which would be a prerequisite to bringing it to the cloud. Here you can have a grid of features that you see are support of Spin specific features that are supported on the cloud. So these are two really helpful links to toggle between the two. But thank you for asking, and that is something we'll definitely note that there is interest in bringing language support there for the NoOps DB feature.
Yeah, and I think with some of this, we'd love to hear from the community as well. If you're interested in a particular feature or in some language support, the best way to reach out to us is our Discord server, right? So that's the link to our Discord server. It's actually a link to our blog post, which links to our Discord server. I was cheating a bit by saying it's a link to our Discord server. The point is we have a Discord server and it is active. All of us are there on it, and a bunch of channels for Spin and Cloud and feature requests and all of that. So yeah, just head on there, and if you have any questions, requests, feedback, that's a good place to actually get started. Again, folks, just as a reminder, this is Office Hours. We do this once a month, and this is a chance for you to ask us questions. It can be about anything: WebAssembly, Spin, Fermyon. We'll try and answer as many as possible. And if there are no questions, we'll just do regular programming, which is showing off some of the cool things that we launched recently. And one of which was this thing called the Spin Up Hub. A bit of a tongue twister, but I'm quite proud of this because I did write the blog post for it. Kenzie, do you want to talk a little bit about the Spin Up Hub?
Yes, I'm so glad you brought it up. Spin Up Hub is our one-stop shop for basically anything you want to do with Spin if you're looking for inspiration. We have a bunch of different resource types that are there. So if you're looking for templates or plugins or samples or a specific library, all of these resources existed already, but they could live in a variety of places. So we wanted to improve discoverability by putting everything in one single home. This is curated from examples both within Fermyon, but also from the community as well. So if you have a really interesting sample app, or perhaps you've written a custom plugin, we highly encourage you to check out and contribute and add those so others can get inspired and look at things that they want to potentially build using Spin.
Yeah, I'm very excited about this for two reasons. One is I think it makes it easier to get started from like a template in multiple languages. We have templates that are verified by Fermyon, so it's been checked and it's verified, and it's a good base for you to get started. And two, like I said, or rather, like Kenzie said, anyone can contribute to this Spin Up Hub. And we already have 4 external contributions. Shout out to Thorsten, Robin, Leor, and Matthias for their contributions already. They have some very cool, templates and plugins for you to get started. And yeah, we'd love to also get contributions from you. So if Kenzie, what are some ideas that people could potentially contribute, if they want to, but are like thinking for use cases?
Yeah, that's a great question. So something as simple as a CRUD API for your favorite programming language is something that's super helpful in terms of scaffolding for other people to go ahead and get inspired and up and developing. Is a great starting point. If you have a favorite static site generator, building a template to enable others to get started, wrapping that up as a Spin application is another great one. You saw us showcase 11T. There's a bunch of other examples out there. I think those would be fantastic to have on the hub for others to try out and play with.
Nice. Yep. Folks, we'd love for your contributions. We'd love for you also to get started using some of these templates. Again, if you have any feedback, do let us know. You can join us on Office Hours and tell us that the Spin Up Hub sucks. It's fine. We just put it out. But yeah, we'd love to hear from you, right? So also you can get on our Discord and talk to us about it. All right, I think we have one last thing to do, Kenzie, which I'm hoping becomes a bit of a tradition on this stream, which is we're going to play a game of Finicky Whiskers. For those of y'all who might not be familiar, one of the mascots, at least, of Fermyon is Slats the cat. Slats is a very hungry cat that can't decide what they want to eat. And we built this game to sort of showcase the power of WebAssembly and Spin. So, Kenzie, do you want to play a round of Finicky Whiskers? And then maybe we can tell everyone how the game works and also the sort of updates we made to the game using the features we just launched.
Sounds good. No pressure. A live demo.
No pressure at all.
Oh my gosh, my reaction time. Okay. So as someone mentioned, we have Slats here, and he, like many cats, is particular about what he's going to get fed. So as soon as I hit start, we're going to be counting down. I think maybe 30 seconds. We'll see. And I got to feed him as correctly as I can. So right now he's asking for vegetables. So I'm clicking vegetables super fast. And now chicken, which honestly looks like fish, and it throws me off all the time.
I think that was intentional. Yeah. Like one of those. Yeah.
Like a curveball
Yeah.
to keep people on their toes. And basically, yeah, we'll dive a little bit into this more. But every time I'm correctly feeding him, we're actually spinning up a spin application to go ahead and log my score. I tried. I did not come close to greatness. You can see we have our leaderboard over here with our high scores. So if you do have the honor of scoring within the top 10, you get to put in your 3-letter acronym of choice. Emojis are supported. And yeah, you get to go ahead and wear that with a badge of pride, knowing that you are one of the best cat feeders around town.
Yeah, and anyone can play this. Go to finickyWhiskers.com, try the game. Different ways you can actually attack or rather mash the buttons to get the high score. If you do get a high score, again, let us know. I can tell you that some names on that list that you see there are folks at Fermyon. So clearly we're playing the game quite a bit. Kenzie, do you want to maybe talk about some more than others for sure? Yeah. Not going to say who though. Kenzie, do you maybe want to talk about what's actually happening every time you hit a button and how this game actually showcases the power of WebAssembly and Spin?
Yeah, of course. So hopping back over to GitHub, we have Finicky Whiskers. It's part of Fermyon.org, so you can go ahead and check it out. And yeah, so behind this cute, adorable cat is several components. One is we have static file server to render content statically. One of the more interesting components that we have here as it relates to some of the newest features we've released is the high score component. So every time we need to assess whether or not a high score has been achieved, like we tried for me, I didn't quite make it. We're actually using a SQLite database to go ahead and check what the existing scores are and compare against the existing session and update it accordingly using our SQLite database. But yeah, you can see, I think there's about 5 or so different components, all have different responsibilities. We're using our in-house database here for that high score component, but we also wanted to demonstrate the ability to connect to external data stores. So we also still have a Redis instance that we're using as part of the scoreboard as well. That Redis is not managed as part of Fermyon Cloud infrastructure. We are using the Spin SDK to connect to it, making it just super easy to continue to work within the same framework you're familiar with. But again, an example of using relational built-in storage or externally going to a Redis instance, which I think we actually have running as a container to kind of showcase that WebAssembly and containers can absolutely be symbiotic, right? We have a long running process that is better served by a container, and something that's event driven and ephemeral is a fantastic example of where we might want to use Spin components specifically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's really cool. And we earlier in the stream showcased both us launching the NoOps SQL database as well as custom domains. We recently ported Finicky Whiskers to the Fermyon Cloud. And we also, like Kenzie mentioned, got the high score list on the database. Right? So all of the high scores that you see while playing Finicky Whiskers, which we didn't get in this game, are actually using the NoOps SQL database. So yeah.
Yes, and it's still being, at least, yeah, that component is still being called. So we're checking it just to make sure that I didn't quite make it. Again, really easy to do. All you have to do is open a connection, and then from there, using the execute statement to run your SQLite commands as required. It's super easy to get up and running and work with that resource without having to worry about some of the operational overhead you normally would have to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again, if you want to check out the code behind Finicky Whiskers, github.com/fermyon/Finicky Whiskers. It's all up there. Do check it out. If you just want to play the game like I do, just go to finickyWhiskers.com and try and beat that high score. I think I want to see the Fermyon folks off of that, that high score list. And I really want to see folks in the community playing that game and getting a high score. So yeah, do some button mashing and get on that high score list quick.
Yes, please do. It'd be fantastic to see. Also, there is a slight difference too. If you're ever around at a conference that we're attending, like we'll be at WasmCon, we do have this game typically running in person on an iPad with a set of physical buttons, which I think is a competitive advantage to typical clicking. So I'll just put that out there. Yeah, we post which conferences we'll be up and at, and it's a great place to maybe get a little bit of a competitive edge at your Finicky Whiskers score.
Yeah, and as an added bonus, you'll get to meet us, say hi, and we'll also probably give you a free T-shirt. So yeah, there's incentive right there.
Yes. One other
All right.
resource.
Yeah, go ahead, Kenzie. Sorry.
A little bit of a pivot, but I did want to, we showcased this a few times. I wanted to talk about just our changelog. Another resource. So this is cloud specific. Anytime we release a new feature, it's a great thing to subscribe to. We'll put out a short blurb, and you can go ahead and drill into some of the more specifics on like how to get started, or the blog posts, which are typically more in depth. But love using this as a frame of reference just to see what's been new and released. And yeah, definitely check it out and keep an eye on what's up and coming.
Yeah, again, posted the link in the chat. It's developer.fermyon.com/cloud/changelog. As Kenzie said, all the changes that are pushed in production, you will see listed in the changelog, right? So if in case there is some change that you need to make in your code, or you want to add a new feature, this is the source of truth. So do check it out. All right. Kenzie, anything else before we call it a day and wind up?
I think that covers everything we wanted to go through.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, folks, I think we covered a bunch of stuff today. We spoke about custom domains. We spoke about the no-ops SQL database. We spoke about Finicky Whiskers and how it works, the changelog. And yeah, we also spoke a bunch about WebAssembly, Spin, and Fermyon Cloud. We do this every month, same time, and we will be hosting it live on our YouTube channel going forward. So if you have any questions and want them answered in an interactive YouTube format, here's your chance. But also you can always join our Discord and meet with other Spin devs and Fermyon Cloud app devs, or just with folks that are working in Fermyon. We'd love to say hi, so swing by our Discord as well. And yeah, we hope to see you soon, either on Discord or in-person meetup or a conference very soon. From Kenzie and myself, see you. Have a great rest of the day and talk to you soon.
Hi, thanks everyone.